What's up, everybody? Welcome to Surviving the Game podcast. My name's Chad,
My name's Steven.
and we are your hosts. We want to thank you guys for joining us for our second episode. It's been a minute since we did the first one, but we are back with our second one. And so today we've decided to take the time to let Steven kind of tell his story and kind of get to know him a little bit today. So yeah, we're gonna jump right into it. Steven, I'm grateful you're here with me as usual. I don't think I could do this by myself, and I appreciate you always being willing and able. What's been going on, man?
Oh man, it's been a little rough here lately. My family experienced pretty hard tragedy. We had our twins on Friday, and they didn't make it.
Man, brother, I'm so sorry. I can't imagine what that felt like and what you and your family's going through. You guys are definitely in my prayers, and I know everybody watching is
Yeah,
praying.
and I appreciate everybody else's prayers that's been praying for us, and everybody that's donated, and everybody that has sent food or text or called. It means a lot. It means the world. It's been a lot of people. I couldn't respond to everybody. As a good time, I'm trying. It's the holidays. We've been super busy here at the shop.
Yeah.
Everybody trying to get looking good before Thanksgiving, and
Right.
I've just been doing my best.
Well, man, that's all you can do, bro, and that's part of the being in recovery is having a network of people in the recovery community. Before we get too far into it, though, I do want to thank Wildwood Reserve Barbershop for allowing us to use this space to record this podcast. We're very appreciative of Wally and the guys, and Steven, you work here, so I appreciate you also. But you can book a haircut. Where do you go to book a haircut for that?
You can book a haircut at www.barbershop.com. That's just 2 W's, like Wildwood.
Yeah. And then they're located at 1330 Northwest Broad Street in Murfreesboro.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So let's get right into it, man, Steven. So we've been through a lot together when it comes to active addiction, and we've never really discussed at length before what we went through leading up to addiction. So let's just kind of touch off with how everything started for you. What was like your childhood like?
Man, my childhood was, well, I was the oldest, so, responsibility was on me. I feel like being the oldest, your parents are harder on you.
Yeah.
But for the most part, like I had, a normal American family. It was real strict. I didn't go, let's put it this way, I didn't go to my first party until my senior year, and it was a graduation night. Yeah, I was pretty sheltered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's important though to mention, because a lot of people have misconceptions about addiction and maybe what brings somebody to even become an addict. And your childhood was similar to mine. I was very I wouldn't say necessarily sheltered, but I felt loved and always had a loving home and never had to worry about anything. And yet me and you both still turned out as addicts, right?
Yeah.
So it definitely doesn't discriminate. So what was what would you say your first using experience was, and what do you think led to that, or what was your first using experience?
So I used to believe that, pills were a placebo effect. That, because I'd only ever taken Tylenol or
Right.
aspirin or whatever. And so my first experience with it, my father, my dad, who didn't raise me, he kind of showed up in the picture like after I was grown.
Yeah.
But I let him come live with me, and then he got sick. He had cancer. He had to have a surgery, and he didn't take pills either.
Yeah.
So he got this bottle of Percocets, and it sat on my dresser for about 2 months.
Oh wow.
Yeah. you know, I had no interest in taking them, but at
Yeah.
the same time, like, why am I going to throw a whole bottle of Percocets away? You know,
Right.
so they sat there forever. And I came home from work one day and I only took like a quarter of a piece of a
Yeah.
pill. You know, but next thing I knew, you know, I'm out there mowing the grass, I'm doing the dishes, I'm doing laundry, you know, all stuff that I don't
Right.
typically do. But I felt like Superman.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, within 2 weeks, the bottle was gone.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so you know, I really had no idea what addiction was, what it meant to be addicted. You know,
Yeah.
but all I knew was my back feels like it's kicked through my stomach.
Oh,
you know,
wow.
you know, diarrhea. All you know,
Are you
all
talking
the
about
things.
withdrawing?
Yeah,
off of-
man. So yeah, it just off that bottle. Me and my wife at the time, you know, we kind of shared it. I don't know. We just kind of did things together.
Yeah.
Um,
Didn't
and-
think about it much. Just just used.
Absolutely.
Wasn't even
I mean,
a
it was
thought or plan.
prescription medication. You
Yeah.
know, like, and yeah, like I said, next thing I knew, like it was gone, and I was hurting. I was sick. You know, so the only thing I knew was to get more.
Yeah.
So, you know, then the phone calls began.
Right.
And, you know, this was probably 2007, 2008, sometime around then. The economy was failing.
Yeah.
Things started getting tough. But everybody went to a pain clinic.
Oh, I know, man. They were everywhere during that time frame. You know, when you talk about first using, when your dad got cancer, and your life at that time, you were a pretty successful guy, right? You were doing your own thing.
Yeah, man. In 2006, I opened up the Chair Barbershop.
How old were you in 2006?
Oh man, now you put me on the spot. But
Pretty young, right? You were pretty young. You were early 20s?
I would say I was 21.
21. Okay,
Yeah.
wow. That's
Yeah.
successful, yeah.
Well, I had a stepdad, you know, growing up, and he always told me I was shit for brains. So, you know, I
Okay.
had something to prove, you know.
Yeah.
So at 21, you know, I bought my first house. I bought a barbershop. I ran a barbershop. We were successful. We were, at the time, you know, we were one of the popular shops in Murfreesboro.
Yeah, man. You guys were out there by the college.
Yeah, man. And I'm pretty sure, well, no, I met you prior to that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, we met in 2002.
2002, yeah.
Right out of high school.
Yeah, we were
Yeah.
putting together advanced auto parts.
Yeah, man.
Great future, you know?
Yeah, who would have known, right? Yeah, but I'll tell you what, though, just to kind of back up to that, you know, you were young when I first met you. I'm a few years older than you, and I'd already been pretty experienced with using by
Yeah.
the time me and you met, and I always just admired your work ethic, you know, and to be as young as you were, and already putting together a business and buying a home like that's a lot that a lot of people at that age aren't thinking about and doing.
Yeah, even if it was for the wrong reasons, you know, like I said, I felt like I had something to prove, you know,
Yeah.
and looking back, you know, hindsight's 2020, and you know,
Yeah.
a lot of things that could have been done different.
Yeah, I think that's in any situation though. But I think I guess I'm just trying to say was like I always admired you know, who you were and what you were achieving at that time. Yeah, so you know, so you guys ran out and what the phone call started and you just started finding other people.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, I cut hair in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, so like I knew everybody, know everybody, you know, and at the time, it wasn't really looked upon or frowned upon. I mean, really, you know, I had no idea what I was getting into,
Yeah.
you know, which easily turned into, I remember spending $1,500 and being out within like 3 days.
Wow.
You know, you do the math, and
Yeah.
that's quite a bit of pills, you know.
Sure.
But you know, with pain pills, it takes no time for you to build a tolerance.
Yeah.
You know, and next thing you know, you're taking 10 apiece, your wife's taking 10 apiece, and then, you know, of course, it's just downhill from there.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that, the tolerance on that. You know, it seems like even early on, I realized that if I took one for a couple days, then one wasn't going to do it. I'm going to take two the next time.
You see, I was the type that if I had, let's easy math here. If I had 10 pills,
Mm-hmm.
all right, and I don't know, a few days until I can get more.
Yeah.
You know, like I would balance it out. You know, maybe take half here, take half there, or whatever. Rachel, my wife at the time, she was different. You know, she had to do them all.
Yeah, that was
You know.
me too. I had to do them all.
Yeah, so she had to do them all, and like, you know, she would show up at work at lunchtime, and how much money have you made?
Yeah.
You know, and I got to where I just had to like kind of lie to her, because if there was an extra $10, she was gonna want to buy that half pill.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
and we just kind of ran ourselves in the ground with that, you know, and then.
Yeah.
And then my son was born in 2007.
Okay.
Greatest thing that ever happened to me.
Though I know, I remember when Landon was born, you know, and he was such a beautiful little baby, and
Yeah.
the pride that you and your wife had at the time. Yeah, I remember that, man, and didn't mean to cut you off there.
No,
Yeah.
you're good. You're good. You know, so I did the dad thing. You know, I helped change diapers. I helped provide. I helped make sure, you know, that he had, you know, what he needed.
Yeah.
And let's see. So he was born in 2007. By 2011, me and his mom had split up probably in 2009.
Yeah.
But even though we split up, I never had any issues with seeing my son. You know, sometimes she would drop him off with me for 3 days, you know, 2 days, whatever she needed. You know, I try to be there. It was never a fight. It was never an argument.
Yeah.
In 2011, 2012, she ended up having to go to jail for about 9 months.
Okay.
Okay, and she calls me up, and she's crying from the jail phone, and she's begging me, please, you know, don't take my son from his grandparents. And you know, I was like, well, you know, last thing I want to do is hurt my son.
Yeah.
Last thing I want to do is, you know, cause him more pain.
Right.
You know, he'd already been through enough. You know, we split up and
At
all
that
that.
time, he was living with her grandparents. Is that?
Well, come to find out, what it was is she would drop him off with me, and then when it was time for her to have him, she would drop him off with her grandparents.
Okay.
And then, you know, the whole time telling her grandparents I'm having nothing to do with my son.
Oh, I got you.
That Steven's not in the picture, Steven's this, Steven's that, you know. And what she was doing, she was just milking it, you know. Her grandparents, you know, they're pretty well to do. You know, so with me being out of the picture, you know, it's, I hate to say it, but it's poor pitiful her, you know,
Yeah.
and, you know, then next thing you know, they're throwing her more money. So, of
Right.
course, you know, why would she not, you know,
But at some point, so she goes to jail, and so now it's you and Landon, and she's in jail.
Well,
and
no, it's Landon and his grandparents,
Landon
you know.
and his grandparents.
And my addict mind and my thinking at the time was, well, I work full time. I'll keep doing what I'm doing, you know, like
Yeah.
I'll get them on the weekends, you know.
Sure.
Her grandparents were retired, you know, so they're home all the time. So, like, in my head, you know, I thought it was a good idea, you
Yeah.
know, I'll keep getting them on the weekends. So, you know,
Yeah.
I called the grandparents up and, you know, told them I wanted to pick them up for the weekend. And, you know, of course, their first response is, well why the hell do you want to, you know, come see them now, you know?
Oh, wow.
And, you know, of course, right away, I'm like, you know, what are you talking about, you know? You know, but
Defensive.
defensive, yeah, you know, but then I find out, you know, she made it sound like, you know, I'm having absolutely nothing to do with my
Yeah.
son. Okay, so shortly after that, pretty quickly, they took me to court for emergency custody. They said that since I was in and out of jail, that, you know, I was a bad parent. The judge at the time said, you know, just because he's in and out of jail doesn't mean make him a bad parent. It means he makes poor decisions.
Yeah.
You know, and I agree with that 1000%. Hindsight, looking back, you know.
Right. I think maybe the heart was in the right place, but the method of doing things was. All right, guys, sorry about that. We had a little glitch with the equipment, but we're back. So we're going to just jump right back where we left off.
Take two.
Take two. Take two. Here we are. We're back. All right. So back to where we were. You guys were going to court.
Okay, so they took me
for
to,
emergency custody, right?
yeah, for emergency custody.
Okay.
We went to court. I told the judge the same thing, that I was cool with Landon staying with his grandparents during the week, you know, but I wanted to see him on the weekends. You know, that was my time off. That all worked out fine. The judge wanted me to take a drug test once a month. And, you know, each month, you know, I had a painful addiction.
Yeah.
So each month, you know, I just go through hell and sober up for them 3 days, you know, and go through the withdrawals, and I'd go in and I'd pass my test.
Right.
And that worked for about 6 months.
6 months. That's what I was going to ask you. How long did that work out? So 6 months, you were able to pretty much.
I mean, in a
muster
nutshell.
through it.
Yeah. And so we pretty much went for like a review. Of course, they had a high-priced lawyer. I had a public defender at the time, but they said, Your Honor, we want them to take a hair follicle test. And they said, we'll pay for it.
Oh, the old hair follicle test.
Yeah, so the judge is like, well, normally I wouldn't normally do this, but, you know, considering he's passed all his tests, I don't see no reason why not, you know. So then I went and took the hair follicle test.
Yeah.
And I melted it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, because those things go back like 6 months.
Yeah, they go back a long time. They can go back really far depending on how much you want to pay.
Yeah.
Okay, so hair follicle test, and once the results of that came back, it was obviously positive for opiates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that thing was so accurate, that I remember one time I was at this girl's house, and you know, I was sick, I was withdrawing, and she said, I got some Roxy mixed in with this cocaine right here.
Oh, shoot.
You know, and I'm sick, so I didn't care, you know.
Yeah.
You know, next thing you know. So anyway, the cocaine shows up on the test
wow.
too. So me and Rachel had gotten married after Lando was born. So in the state of Tennessee, I never had custody rights. I only had visitation rights. And then, so when I melted that test, I lost my visitation rights.
So at that point, you lost all rights.
I lost all rights. I lost
a father,
all connection with my son.
Yeah. So they took him basically, and seeing him was few and far between.
No, I didn't get to see him for 10 years.
Oh wow! So 10 years. So let's just pause right here for just a second on that, because I can imagine. Right, I'm a father, and I didn't have to go through that whole experience that you went through. And at the time I didn't, and I understand today how fortunate I was that I didn't have to go through that.
But I know, man, he was a great father, you know, even in between all the things, you know, I feel like he was always there for Kelsey. Maybe not there like you thought you were being there at the moment, you know, because I know you've put her through a lot.
Sure.
It's just like I put my son through so much. Sorry guys, this is some emotional stuff.
Yeah, this is a deep wound that sometimes we don't know whether or not we're over it until we talk about it, and we realize that it's still.
I'm gonna put it like
painful.
this. My twin boys, I just lost them on Friday.
Yeah.
And that just hurt so much.
Yeah.
You know, but I've felt this pain before. You know, when Landon was taken from me or whatever, you know, like I've felt this before.
Yeah.
Except for, I mean, this is a little bit more definite. You know, there's no chance of reconciliation. It's permanent.
Yeah.
You know, death is permanent. So in the last week, it feels like I've relived a lot of this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't want to get stuck on that. I want to move forward.
Well,
I want to move forward.
That's fine, and we will move
Because
forward.
I'm going to come back to this feeling. I'm going to come back to this.
Right. I do want to say this. What you're doing today by even sharing where you're at is it's important because there's other people out there that are going through situations like you've gone through right now that don't think that anybody else could understand. So for that aspect alone, you are giving back to people. And it may feel like you shouldn't have to give back to anything right now, but I think, Stephen, in time, with your network of people, with your family, that you will get through this. And by getting through it, I don't mean that you'll get over it. We'll learn how to live with the pain, and we'll do something better. I say we because I feel like we're family.
Absolutely.
And something positive can come from this. It may not feel like it right now, but we're going to continue pushing forward, right?
Yeah.
Because I know before we started doing this interview, we talked about that. About people reaching out. A lot of people reached out to you, and some of those people were trying to encourage you to not allow this to be what brings you down with your addiction.
Absolutely.
That's right, correct?
Yeah, there's been a lot of people reaching out and then just worried about me and worried that this happening will cause me to go down the rabbit hole. But I'm here to tell you that I know how that ends.
Yeah.
And we're still good.
Right. Yeah. No. And I told you before we started doing this that you slipping back to old ways never crossed my mind. It never crossed my mind because I see the person that you are today and what all you have going on in your life and the people that depend on you to be the functioning person that you are today. Plus, like you just said, we already know how that ends, and we don't want to go down that route anymore.
No,
right?
No.
But I will say this, man. Things happen when they happen for a reason, and the only thing that I can look at and take away from this is I'm grateful that if it had to happen, it happened when you were in recovery, surrounded by people,
because
we don't know what could the outcome could have been or would have been had you not been in recovery.
Absolutely, man. It would have been so bad. So let's go to the next step real quick.
Yeah.
So starting out early in 2008, somewhere around that ballpark figure, whatever, all the way up to 2020, I became a heavy user. My son was gone now, whatever, what was the point?
Yeah.
What happiness did I have left? What joy did I have left or whatever, because here I was, I changed diapers. I did the daddy thing. It didn't work out with me and his mom, even after that though, I still did the daddy thing. My son knew me, until when they took me to court and I failed that hair test. Me and my son up until then had a really close relationship, and he was almost 5 then.
Yeah.
All the way up to 2020, and then eventually the pills, it turned to heroin, IV use, the streets, absolute utter despair. I remember it was July 22nd, 2020. It was middle of summer. I was so dark, man. I looked Mexican.
Yeah.
Even after I went to jail a month later, I still had a darker tan than everybody that was coming in. So finally went to jail that last time. I decided I wanted to take drug court.
Yeah.
Drug court's one of the hardest programs there is.
It is. It's a very accountable program.
Absolutely, man. And I had one goal in mind and one goal only. At the time, maybe even, I mean, obviously it was to get clean,
Mm-hmm.
but I figured if I can finish this program, then maybe I could go back to court and convince a judge, that I'd changed.
Yeah.
Um, but I didn't even have to do that.
Right.
I got clean. I worked the program. I got a network. Um, I graduated drug court. Took me 25 months to do, but I graduated.
That is
25
amazing.
months.
I
Without any hiccups. The only thing that I'd missed at the time was I'd missed a couple drug tests or whatever, and
Yeah.
that was just because I got so busy at work, and then
Right.
I had to. But drug court taught me how to schedule. It taught me how to prioritize. And they just helped me with so much.
Yeah.
They helped me deal with the pain. They give me therapy. I got to talk to a therapist or whatever about my son, and then they pushed me just to be consistent. So then my goal was, okay, if I can make it to a year clean, then I'm gonna start reaching out to my son.
Yeah.
And it started with, I remember it was Easter, and any holiday I could have excuse. Hey, they were never put a restraining order on me, So
Right.
I was like, so I started popping up on the back porch, knocking on the door, and I handed his grandparents an Easter card, and of course I thanked them for being there when I couldn't.
Yeah.
Some things I said, it was very prideful, very hard to say, but I
Right.
said it anyway.
Well, I think, going through drug court, first of all, I don't know what the percentage of people that actually graduate drug court, but I know it's small.
Yeah.
So that's a huge accomplishment. But I would like to think that by doing that and getting the therapy and the help that you needed, that you might have come to understand that at the end of the day, they helped Landon.
Absolutely.
And they were looking out for his best interest,
Absolutely.
regardless of how we felt about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's I think coming to understand that probably allowed you to say those things to them.
Yeah, it helped me swallow my pride.
Swallow your pride.
It helped me see it from a different perspective.
Right.
See it from a different point of view.
Yeah.
It taught me a lot of why I think the way I do, how to handle situations when they come. I'm so grateful for drug court because what I've just experienced through this last week, there's no words.
Yeah, there's no words. And sometimes we don't need words. We can see it through action and emotion. And I know what kind of person you are today. You've always been the same person for me. You were somebody that I used with daily for years. You've seen me at my worst. I've seen you at your worst. You went into drug court in 2020, right?
Yes.
All right. So in 2020, I was still actively using, and I would sit there and think about the progress that you have made, and I didn't think that I was strong enough to do what you had done. But I would sit there and I would think about how it finally clicked and it worked for you, and you finally found freedom from active addiction as I'm actively still using, and then as I witnessed you start to get a year and then 2 years, and my gift of desperation came for me, right? You were the person that took me to my first meeting, right? You were the first person to ever take me to a meeting. You opened the doors to recovery for me. You changed my life with that. I want you to know that. You changed my life with that, all right? And I'm so grateful that we both get to sit here today and we get to talk about the hard things, and we get to look at our life from the standpoint of clean. right? And we can grow through the pain, and we both are in a point of our lives where we're building something amazing,
Something bigger than us.
bigger than us, man. But when I thought about whether or not I could get clean, you were the person I looked at, and I said, well, if Steven can do it, then I can do it. And that's what I needed. I needed somebody that I had seen at their worst, and then seeing them back on top again. Because I've seen you on top before, many years ago. But I feel like God led you to where you were, and that helped me, right? So, like, I don't know that I would have even entertained the idea of going to NA or doing meetings or any of that if it hadn't been for somebody like you that opened the doors for me. That really made a difference in my life, and I'm just grateful, man. I really am. I'm grateful that we are on the other side.
Amen.
Because we've buried a lot of our friends and a lot of our family. We've lost people extremely close to us, probably more than we could actually remember.
Absolutely.
I
made a post last year, a year and a half ago. I made a post and I said, if you have a loved one or family or friend that has lost their life to an overdose, please post their picture here.
Mm-hmm.
And I just said, we want to remember them.
Yeah.
I kid you not, within a day and a half, that post had over 500 names, pictures.
Wow.
And that was all people from Murfreesboro, Tennessee.
That's insane.
That was all people that pretty much had died since I cleaned up in 2020.
That's insane, man. That it touches so many people. Addiction touches every household. At least in America, I know that it touches every household. I think everybody knows somebody.
Absolutely.
That's died from a drug overdose or drug-related death, and it's sad, really, because there is help out there, and there are resources out there, and it may not be talked about enough where people can see that there's an out for them, and that's part of what we're doing here, is so that we can show somebody else that there is an out. You don't have to die from this.
Absolutely. So let's go to July of 2020. Well, fast forward a few months, because I did like 4 months in jail.
Yeah.
I decided I was gonna.
Now, the 4 months in jail, was that before drug court?
Yeah.
So before you went into drug court, you went to jail for.
I went to jail for 4 months. That's when I decided that I wanted to attempt drug court. Everybody told me I was an idiot for taking drug court on a 2. But and I could have easily just sat in jail for another 4 or 5 months and flattened that 2 and been done with it. But I would have been right back out doing the same thing, and I was tired. I was sick and tired. So let's back up right before I got arrested.
Yeah.
It's July 22nd. It's hot as can be. Like I cussed God. I literally said, God, kill me or send me to jail.
Mm.
Within 2 hours, I was in jail.
Wow.
Which I mean, at that point, I think I just kind of broke. I think I just didn't care. I literally walked in such and such store, walked out with something, walked in another one, walked out with something, walked in another one, walked out with something, walked in another one, grabbed a hat, walked out, grabbed another place, grabbed a pair of shoes, walked out. So I'm literally walking out this parking lot, got a whole backpack full of like stolen goods.
Just junk.
Junk, Bluetooth speakers. So anyway, I'm walking through the parking lot. I see the people that I was with. They're across the way, and I'm walking, and all of a sudden, this cop out of nowhere just pulls in the middle of the parking lot, and he's like, "Hey, man, you steal that hat?" And I was like, "Yeah, man, I did." And he's like, "Well, man, let's go back over here, give it back. Maybe they won't press charges." He was. So anyway, he searches my backpack. He's like, all the stuff yours? I'm like, yes, sir, it is. And so we go back in there, we pull up to the store. They gave the hat back. Dude didn't press charges. But guess what? You know, of course, they come back. I had a warrant.
The good old warrant.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure it was like FTA too, so there was like no bond on it at the time, you know. So I was stuck.
Yeah.
You know, of course, nobody was gonna make my bond at that time anyway. You know, I'd burned every bridge with my family, with anybody that remotely cared about me.
Yeah.
So while I was in jail, you know, I opened the Bible. I did a lot of reading. You know, I was searching for answers.
Yeah.
Like I opened it up in 1 Samuel and I read to the end, and I'm pretty sure I read most of the New Testament again. And what I got from that, searching for answers, and this was kind of my spiritual awakening.
Right.
Okay, but as Jesus was talking, he was talking about the devil tempting him for the 40 days.
Yeah.
And Jesus said, if I don't allow that devil in me, it has nothing over me.
Oh, wow.
And it was a direct reflection of, if I don't put that drug in me, it has nothing over
It has
me.
nothing over me.
You know, the whole Bible's talking about strongholds.
Yeah.
And then I'm watching, you know, like they would get Suboxone in that jail, right? So like a little tiny piece of Suboxone's going for $20 plus, you know?
Yeah.
So commissary day, you look out your cell window and or on the door, you look out and you see 2 whole trash bags full of commissary going across the hall to the dope man.
Oh, wow.
And like then it just like clicked to me too, like we really are a slave to this.
Yeah.
And anybody that's seen anybody go through withdrawals before, and I mean, you can't tell me that's not evil spirits coming out of a man, you know, and those drugs are, you know, the evil spirits, and that's about the most I'll get on the whole, you know, religion thing, but that's what worked for me. And then we would do Bible studies in there, you know. It wasn't no prison religion like thing or nothing. I was just looking for answers.
Yeah.
Why am I so miserable? Why, like, obviously I have all the talent in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, look at me today.
Oh, I know.
You
It's
know,
amazing. The transformation from that guy in jail searching for answers to the guy you are today is God revealed himself to you, and now...
Well, see, this guy asked me, he said, have you ever asked God to put your son back in your life?
No.
You know, and like, I was like, well, now that you put it that way, no, I have not directly asked God.
Yeah.
God, will you restore mine and my son's relationship? So I prayed that. Okay, so then I get out. Okay, so I get accepted to drug court. They decide I need a month's rehab. Okay, so I don't get 4 months in jail. Now I gotta go do a 30-day rehab.
Right.
Like, I'm so upset. I go to court, and you know, the paperwork said, will be released to transitional housing. So like, I'm like, yeah, I'm getting out to a halfway house, you know,
Yeah.
I'm done, you
You're
know.
good.
No,
Healed.
bro, you need some help.
Yeah.
And I remember when I had my interview in drug court, Miss Lori, she asked me, she said, out of 1 out of 10 people, she said, how many do you know that is a positive influence? And I was like, well, I got my mom, my brother sometimes,
Yeah.
and that was it.
Wow.
That was it. Like,
Yeah.
I could not think of 5 people
Yeah.
that was left in my life that was a positive influence that did not use. Everybody surrounded myself
Yeah.
with used.
Yeah. Everybody wanted something from you,
Absolutely.
and vice versa. We were that person too. That
Yeah.
We used a lot
Yeah.
of people. Like you said, you
Yeah.
burned a lot of bridges. I burned a lot of bridges.
So I get released to a halfway house, and that's where I was introduced to Threshold.
Now, Threshold is a recovery house in Murfreesboro, correct?
Absolutely,
Okay.
yes, sir. Matthew Cope runs it, and Matt was the biggest blessing in my life at that time. He was my first sponsor. I remember having conversations with him and saying, all right, when's the bottom gonna fall out?
Yeah.
Life's going to be too good right now.
Yeah.
When's the bottom gonna fall out? Because I don't deserve this life. Like,
Yeah.
I don't deserve this, you know. But the longer I stayed clean, I rebuilt relationships. I rebuilt relationships with my family. I landed an amazing job. You know, of course, I walked in there like, hey, I'm Steven, I'm an addict. You know, and I just laid it on the line or whatever, and they're looking at me like, you know,
Wait a minute.
you know, but, you know, check out my skills, you know, I'm good.
Yeah, you definitely got the talent, so that's not an issue at all. Never has been an issue.
And then I'll bring this up or whatever because, like, this was totally unrelated, but I had this client, and I didn't even know this dude used like this. He told me he had been drinking a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, he comes in one afternoon and his face is all red, and he asked if he can get a haircut. I was like, well, I got a couple to do real quick, but hang out and I'll get you. And he goes to the bathroom, he comes out, and he's on his phone scrolling. Next thing I know, I look up, you know, and he's just kind of like this motion.
Oh, he's out. Yeah.
No, I've never finished a haircut so fast in my life. Like, I was like, oh my gosh, God, this is not happening. Tell me, this is not happening.
Yeah.
This is really, no, like, you know, this isn't really happening. So anyway, CPR, called the ambulance.
Oh, so he
overdosed. He overdosed right there in the barbershop. I'm 2 months into the job.
Wow.
They already know I got a history of drug use.
Yeah.
And so dude's just dying there in the thing. You know, of course, knowing a little bit what I know, you know, I went and got a cold glass of water and I hit him in the face with it.
Yeah.
And, you know, he comes back. And then he goes right back out. Like, I mean, we worked on this man for like 10 minutes, you know, and like, he's dead. Finally, and this lady's over, I remember she was praying over him and everything, and then the ambulance finally got there and they hit him with a toner and Narcan, and he came back. He made it. I almost got fired. You know that?
Oh, wow.
Well, guess who they looked at right away?
Yeah.
Whose fault was it? You know, even though I had absolutely nothing to do with it, had no idea that he was doing
That
it.
reputation.
But I mean, that just goes to show that it doesn't discriminate, and it's everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, it can be in the barbershop, it can be at church,
Oh,
it can be at the gas station parking lot, it can be in
It's
McDonald's.
everywhere. Yeah, it's everywhere. But you know, the way I look at that story is that man needed to OD in front of somebody like you.
Who knew what to look for.
Who knew what to look for, who knew what to do when something like that happens. I pray that man found healing. You know, I don't know if you know or not, but I pray that he found healing and recovery for sure, because nobody deserves to overdose in a barbershop.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
know, or anywhere for that matter. But there was something I wanted to ask you. Before you went to jail and decided to do drug court, had you ever attempted recovery before? Had you ever gone to rehab or done anything to try?
Yeah, about a year prior.
And how did that work for you?
A year prior, I had got out of jail. I went straight across. I was trying to find a halfway house, and it ended up being a faith-based halfway house. It was more of a program or whatever. So I did that. Ended up getting a decent little job, and then I bought a little $700 car, and then I was like, well, I'm not making exactly enough. You know, I can go buy this ounce, and I can sell it, and I can double my money.
Yeah.
You know, but you know what happened.
Yeah.
I only sold half of it.
Yeah.
I only sold half. Let me get to this point. I only sold half of it. I ended up, you know, I was out there, you know, so like I thought the feds or the police was chasing me. Like I done went through 3 counties. I ended up crashing my car down the side of a mountain. Got out, took off running because, like I said, I thought somebody was following me. You know, ended up spending the night in the woods. As soon as I took a step out of my car, I lost my shoe. Like I stepped in a hole, I lost my shoe. Of course, I kept running.
Yeah, of course.
You know,
why wouldn't you?
And the thing is, I was so out of it. Like, if I would have went right, there was somebody there that lived there that I knew that could have got help from. But instead, I went left over the mountain, spent the night. So, long story short, where I'm getting at with that, I think I had like 3 or 4 months clean.
Yeah.
I was in that faith-based program. I was doing good. I was healed. I was not an addict no more. One night, I lost my job because I didn't make it to work the next morning.
Yeah.
And I was too embarrassed to answer the phone. I had wrecked my car. and I was staying with my brother at the time. Or I got out of the program, went to go live with my brother because I thought, I'm healed, I'm
you're
good,
Yeah,
And so overnight, my brother's like, "Well, you ain't got no job, you ain't staying here."
yeah,
And so I was off to the races for that whole next year, and then that's when I went to jail, and that's when I started drug court, and then I got into threshold, and then the miracles started to happen. Like I said, I completed drug court. I was sending those letters to my son. I would go knock on the door. The grandfather would come to the door, and he would accept the gifts and he would give to my son, whether it was shoes, whatever.
Yeah.
So at least he was giving it to him, so it was a start.
he was receptive.
Yeah, he was receptive to an extent.
Yeah,
But then eventually, he started smiling whenever I come over, and he was like, "Man, whatever you're doing, keep doing it." And he said,
wow.
"And I have no doubt that before too long, your son will be back in your life."
Man, talk about prayers answered.
No, I mean, they weren't answered there yet because
Yeah.
my son still wasn't coming to the door.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and then Rachel, my baby mama, she had ended up going back to rehab. Well, she'd been there for a week or two. She calls me one afternoon and she says, "Your son is ready to see you."
Mm.
She said, "You better show up." I've been waiting on this for 10 years. Why am I not going to show up? I literally bawled like a baby for an hour and a half. Just the happiest tears like I've ever had in my entire life. Like, it was like all of a sudden, like, life had purpose again.
Yeah.
Life made sense again.
Yeah.
And over these last 2 years, man, I've built my relationship back with Landon. And I'll tell you, my son is 17, and that boy comes to see his daddy about 4 or 5 times a week. He has started barber school. He went,
Wow.
never in my wildest dreams
Yeah.
would I imagine that my life is the way that it is today.
Well, the timing is what I think is key on that. So you got back the things you were supposed to get back in the right time. So you had to put in the work before God would allow you to have that relationship with Landon. And it's one of the most common things with people who get in recovery is we get a little bit of clean time or we get a little bit of doing better, and we tend to want people to be on board right away with us. But what we got to do, or what people we don't understand or realize, is we've done a lot of damage to people.
My brother John was my worst critic or whatever. And when I got clean, he was like, "Well, you've been clean for 36 days. So that means that you're looking at a relapse in about 7 more days."
Right. And statistically showing
he was right.
Probably
I mean,
right.
Usually he would have been right. Absolutely.
Sometimes
But that pushed me harder. That pushed me harder. And I was like, "No,
I'm going to show you."
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But sometimes, though, we have to give... we have to put in what we call a living amends. Us just going and saying, "I'm sorry, I'm not going to do that anymore."
Right.
It doesn't work. People don't believe that anymore. And sometimes it takes that little jab at you like that, "Oh, you're due for a relapse." Well, let me show you,
Yeah.
But, for me, speaking on myself only, I did a lot of damage from my years of using. And just because I got, 6 months clean doesn't mean that my family has to all of a sudden start trusting me again or start giving me giving me the leeway that I feel like I deserve. We have to put in the work. And I feel like with your relationship with Landon that had to happen too. You had to put in the work first before he was willing to put himself out there like that, and you did. You did all the work that you could have done.
I get it. They didn't want me to break his heart again.
Of course not. Yeah. So, but the point is that you did the work, right? You proved that you were serious this time, and that you were tired of living that life, and you were willing to do whatever. And that's what it takes. Is you got to be willing to do whatever. We were willing to do whatever to get high, to go to any lengths and drive to any amount of distance or do whatever it took to get high. we got to have that same kind of energy when it's time to get clean. And you've done that. You've shown that you are willing to do whatever is necessary um, to show that you're a different person today. And I love that you've got Crossroads, your recovery house opening up, because now you are in a unique situation where all your experience with addiction and your experience with recovery, you get to help other guys put their life back on track. Let's talk about that for a minute. Just your recovery house is how's that going?
Man, it's going good. We've had a huge bump in the road this last week with that or whatever, so like that slowed us down a little bit. But we've been working on putting the floors in. I've totally renovated this house,
Yeah.
and I've got discouraged several times. Several times I wanted to light a match to this place and let it burn.
Just let it go.
Yes. It has been an adventure, but I'll tell you, I've learned a lot. I've learned, I've put cabinets in. We've done backsplashes. We've done some tile. We've laid some floors. I've refinished some floors twice.
Yeah.
Had to do it twice because I messed up so bad the first time.
That's okay. That's kind of a metaphor for recovery.
So what I'm looking to do, and the way this property works is, I'm leaning more toward a 3/4 house. What I'm looking for is individuals that have a little bit of clean time
Yeah.
under their belt. They already have their job. They already, preferably have a car. We'll see how that weighs out or whatever. But most
They're more
importantly,
established in their recovery.
more importantly, just taking it serious.
Yeah.
So it's a unique spot. I'm gonna have individual rooms. We're gonna do full size beds instead of twin size beds.
Yeah.
So you have your own room. I have a living room downstairs and a living room upstairs for the upstairs rooms. We have two sets of washers and dryers, and
well, I think it's important to have that kind of house too, because it gives guys that are really taking recovery serious and that are maybe already in a recovery house, it gives them an opportunity to level up and one step closer to complete independence. So it's like
because it's hard for us addicts and stuff, and most of us are felons.
Yeah.
And then hate to break it to you, but if you're a felon, it makes it really hard to rent a spot.
Yeah.
But I want to be able to help guide these guys. I want to be able to whatever obstacles they are going through in life, I probably went through it.
Yeah.
Whether it's getting your license back, whether it's getting the blow thing in your car because you've gotten a DUI.
Sure.
Whether it's
you've got experience with all of that, with what it takes to put your life back on track.
Yeah, and am I perfect? No, I'm not perfect or whatever. I don't claim to be, but I know that I get up each and every day. I go to work.
Mm-hmm.
It's number one. Go to work. I have a family now.
Yeah.
I try to be there for my family. I try to help. I've got 2 bonus kids, and I have Landon. I have Jaden. I have Peyton.
Yeah.
And they keep me on my toes or whatever, but they count on me.
Of course, man. People are dependent on you in the house, and it I think it's something that you need in your life is people to depend on you, because it just gives you that extra.
I think a purpose helps anybody.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
So.
I mean, I think it builds confidence too, because you did go through a very traumatic experience with Landon and not being able to have him in your life as close as you'd want it. And so today you do get to have him in your life, and you do get to have 2 bonus kids in your life today, and you get to be do some of the things that maybe you didn't get to do the first go round.
Absolutely, man. And I just try to be grateful. I just try to, honestly, I thank God every day. I don't understand his reasoning for taking our 2 boys.
Yeah.
I don't know that I'll ever understand it. But I still have to look around at the end of the day and look at the blessings that I still have.
Yeah.
We just moved into
beautiful house.
Dream home,
Yeah.
like nicer than I ever imagined me even moving into.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It is. It's
You
nice.
know,
Super nice.
Lacey's still healthy. You know,
Yeah.
we lost our 2 babies last week. Beautiful baby boys. You know, but I still have everything I need.
Yeah.
Um, I had to, I had to ask some people to make some donations or whatever, because, you find out your old lady's pregnant, you go through all the motions, all the doctor visits, all that stuff, you're emotionally tied to it.
Yeah.
You don't think about losing.
No, you don't.
You don't think about
never
losing your
crosses
kids.
your mind.
And much less 2.
Yeah.
But like I said, I'm just trying to stay focused. I'm trying to count my blessings. I am opening my 3/4 house hopefully by the end of the year. Maybe a week or 2, give or take. Because that's life. There's hiccups. I get to sit right here with my best friend in the whole world, my brother right here, Chad. And we're not headed to Bell Road.
No. Yeah, we don't go to Bell Road.
We don't go to Bell Road no more. And that's
Shout
just
out to Bell Road.
Oh my goodness! But like,
who would have thought, right?
who would have thought, bro?
Between
oh, and then you're opening your sober living.
Yeah.
I'm opening mine. I still get to hang with you, man.
Yeah.
We're doing this together. Like, I mean, you got your own thing, I got my own thing, but at the same time, like, we're doing this together. We have one purpose, we have one goal, and that is just to help people and just to show. Well, let's go back to. Out of 1 out of 10 people, how many did you know it's a positive influence?
Yeah.
You know what my answer is today? I'm not sure exactly how many numbers I have in my phone, but I guarantee you I probably have 1,000.
Yeah, you got a lot.
Or more. I probably have 500 people that have reached out to me this week. I have people that have been through the same situation reach out. I've had people who have not been through the same situation reach out. I have people who knew the old me reach out and say, hey, Stephen, don't let this break you. You've come too far.
Yeah.
I have a beautiful family at home.
You got way more than 10, don't you?
I have way more than 10, man.
Yeah.
Like, I'm still here for the holidays,
Yeah.
Lacey's healthy still,
There's a lot to be thankful for.
There's so much to be thankful for. Thanksgiving's tomorrow.
Yeah.
I remember about 3 years ago, I was so messed up or whatever that my family, they literally locked me in the garage and said, do not come in around Mom.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
That was when I wrecked the car on the side of the mountain.
Okay.
So
it all ties together.
Yeah, so we have a time frame now.
There you go.
Yeah.
But you know what, man? Look, with Thanksgiving coming up tomorrow, what a time to reflect on how far we've all come, in our lives, especially with just me and you.
I'm so proud of you, brother.
But I'm proud of you too, Stephen. I really am. I really couldn't imagine doing this life without you being a part of it. And you've seen me struggle with getting paralyzed. You knew me before my accident and the type of person I was versus the type of person I am now. And I don't mean like I'm not the same person, but there's 2 different Chads. There's pre-injury Chad, and then there's post-injury Chad, and you've been in my life for both of those.
You've always been somebody I've looked up to, though.
Well, I appreciate that, brother. I do, man. I just want to say, brother, I thank you for coming on and sharing your experience with us today. And if anybody wants to help and donate to the cause, we're gonna post the links in the comments or in the description. If you can, please donate. And brother, I'll be there with you.
That's okay too.
That's fine too.
Not why we're here.
No, it's not why we're here, but it's a part of the community that we live in that we're going to reach out and we're going to help everybody that we can. And I feel like that you've got a network today that's willing to step up and help. So
I have some of the greatest friends in the whole world.
yeah, we're blessed, man. We're blessed. But that's all the time we got, man. Thank you, Stephen. I appreciate it, brother. I love you, and I'm grateful for
y'all hug your babies close.
Yeah.
Hug them tight.
That's couldn't have said it any better, brother. All right, brother. I love you.
Love you.